So what's the bottom line formula for living and being? First of all, we always have been steeped in energies emanating from the Creator. And, the scripture spoke of that as in him we live, move, and have our being. So we're continuously steeped in this energy field. In the Aramaic, it was called the Shekinah. So that's like our baseline. We're continuously steeped in that. And that literally is the energy field of God. And that floods all space and time. And whatever you do, thank God you can't get out of that. That's like what the whole of creation is steeped in. However, we can engage in untoward energy, dissonant, incongruent energies. In Aramaic, the archery term sin was used to represent engaging in a discordant energy. Again, that word simply means off the mark. It's energy that doesn't support you being in alignment with that in which you are steeped, that in which you live, move, and have your being. And when you engage in that, then you can never leave that energy field, but you can cut yourself off from awareness of it by engaging in sin. So when you do that, you no longer have access to the Shekinah, which in the ancient Hebrew and Aramaic, it spoke of, that was the indwelling presence. The Shekinah was the indwelling presence. That is a result of the interaction between you and that in which you live, move, and have your being. So when you fill yourself with discordant energies, you cut yourself off from that, and it seems to be gone. The Shekinah, that indwelling presence seems to disappear. Of course, it doesn't disappear. It's just awareness of it is blocked because we're influenced by those incompatible, discordant energies, sin. And of course, those sin energies can be removed by forgiveness and breath. The breath, in Aramaic, ruka de, when we engage it fully, dissolves or transmutes the sin with which we have perhaps cut ourselves off with. When you go into still point breathing, this is my whole download this morning after my breathing session. So when we still point breathe and you choose to actively forgive, you can purposely enter into that sensitive place free from sin. You can, the still point is the full dissipation of any influence of those energies. Doesn't mean you've worked it all out, but there's nothing in the presence of the breath, there's nothing active in the way of that discordant energy. So you're free from it. And in that space, you become aware of through resonance and are supported by that Shekinah. You become aware of what's happening. There's something, there's a presence, there's something going on here. That's design. My offering is that's what's designed to be our baseline. And when you really focus on it and take it to the next level, then you taste it as that indwelling presence. And they called it in the scriptures the comforter. When it isn't just there and you're not aware of it, but you actually taste of it, you actually purposely engage it, then they called it the comforter. And it goes beyond at that stage when you are consciously cooperating with it, more than just that in which you live, move, and have your being. Then, having done the work, removing the incoherent energies that interfere with our ability to hear that still small voice, that comforter, that guide, then the Shekinah is not just an energy that can influence, but activates the energy in us that was placed in us from the beginning. If you go back and the first link that I put in yesterday, I think that one did go in properly, didn't it, Jeannie? The first.
I don't know. I couldn't get it, but I did send an email this morning with yesterday's video, and it has all that link in it.
It's there.
So you've already got that email.
In that, I talk about the Beatitudes, and if you remember, the first word in each of the Beatitudes is tuvehun. It's a three-part word. It's got nothing to do with blessed are they, like there's some sort of external something that's going to bless you. Tuvehun, the core of the three-part word is tuv, and tuv means a neural structure or an attitude of mind. So when you actively engage this energy in which you live, move, and have your being, that resonates or activates the neural structure that was planted in you from the beginning, that's spoken about in the Beatitudes. Each of the Beatitudes is a set of instructions. You'll remember the Greeks translated, and before each of the Beatitudes, blessed are they, blessed are they, blessed are they, blessed are they, blessed are they. No, what it says is a latent neural structure implanted in you by the Creator to guide you to happiness and well-being becomes your conscious possession. So that's the statement before each of the Beatitudes. When you engage this Shekinah, when you consciously, purposely engage this still small voice, then that resonates this underlying. And a component of the word tuvehun is that it's, for most people, it's unconscious. You want to bring it forward. You want to activate it because it's been made unconscious by all the crap we've engaged in. So this neural structure planted us from the beginning is activated at that stage. Sin energies that are off the mark, both distort and disturb that influence and the ability to feel that presence in you. We're designed to feel literally the active presence of love in us. So when we're aligned, it's kind of like in my still point, when I came out of still point this morning, I was just given this whole, here's the formula. So when aligned, we become aware that their next step, there's an interface. It was called in the scriptures the Holy of Holies. It's up here in the top of your head. And that interface, in the control game of the temple, it was about a building in Israel, and there was the high priest, and only the high priest who had no sin, i.e., you can only go in. You are the high priest. Your being is the high priest, and you can only enter that space. You're blocked from it as long as there's any energy that's off the mark moving in you. You can only go there when you're free of. How do you get free of sin? You breathe. You go into still point. That I would offer as the entryway to what they called the Holy of Holies within our own temple, and through which we can connect with Rakhma. The Rakhma is the word that Jesus used when they said, what's most important to the law? He didn't say love your neighbor. He said have Rakhma when you think of the Creator, when you think of neighbor, for by so doing you maintain self. You've now got the key to keeping your human life active. It's Rakhma. So Rakhma can be experienced in two ways. One, it can be active. When it's active, it influences intentions and perceptions for the good. So that's the one way it can be active. So it's a filter in the frontal lobes of the brain, a gateway. When it's active, any intentions based in hostility or fear are muted, and the only intentions that can come forward are those keyed to love. Intentions being the raw material of goals. If your intentions are keyed to love, then your goals are going to be based in love. And that activates or brings into activity a second filter over the back of the brain over perception, which in Aramaic was called Khooba. Khooba, when active, only allows perceptual data based in love to be used by your mind. Rakhma and Khooba together were called perfect love. Remember, they said perfect love casts out fear. If your mind, if Rakhma and Khooba are active, and up until just a couple decades ago, this piece of information was gone from the world. It was introduced 2,000 years ago by Yeshua, but there's nowhere that I know you'll find it aside from this work. So Yeshua is introducing this, Rakhma and Khooba. So Rakhma at one level can just be active, or if you're free of sin, i.e., you breathe and you let loose of that, you go into that space where there is this interface to what was called the mind of Christ. You hook up that interface. Now Rakhma is active and hooked up. You're hooked up to it. Your mind is open to or opened by that connection. You have access to a whole different database than carbon-based memory. So when that interface is hooked up, now the mind of Christ has a way to enter your form. Nothing religious about any of this, just how do you work? How's your life work? So when Rakhma is active, all energies of disconnection or sin are blocked from activity in the frontal lobes of the brain. It can't, it's an inhibitor for anything other than love. And of course, when Khooba is active, when Rakhma is active, there's an interdependent, interrelated filter called Khooba. Then Khooba is active, and now perception is based in love. Now you've got carbon-based memory that is forced to stay on track with love when those conditions are active in the mind. It's like, who knew it? Who knew it? Here's his formula. Here it is. Once your perceptual mind is on track with love, at that point, all perceptual output from the mind is based in love. And the mind of man at that point, carbon-based memory, is now at its highest and best. And that was described as John the Baptist. So you go back to Matthew 11:11, and Yeshua speaks about John the Baptist, and he says, "Truly I say to you, there has not risen among those born of women," i.e., working out of the body's mind, born of women greater than John the Baptizer, but the one who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than him. So if you're cut off, but Rakhma and Khooba are active, hey, you got a pretty good deal going. Your carbon-based memory's on track with love, and your life's going to be as high as it can possibly be. And you'll remember they spoke of John the Baptist as what? The raving maniac in the desert and the forerunner of the Christ. What did that mean? What's the desert? The desert is your unconscious. You have to meet your John the Baptist. You have to meet the one who can reach into your unconscious and bring up everything you need to deal with, every sin that's in your structure. And of course, what do most people want to do with the person who brings up their sin? Blame them and take off their head. Two skills that John the Baptist had not acquired when he went to the king and queen and said, "You're living in sin." What did they do? He reached into their desert and brought up their raving maniac, and they killed him. They took off his head. So he never got to move to that next level, though he was the highest of those born of women, those who were working out of carbon-based memory. So then in the formula, there's the next level, an invitation. Rather than being limited to the top operations of the mind of man or carbon-based memory, as John was, we're actually linked, we actually connect. Rakhma isn't just active, but you actually are connected with it. And when you're connected through that Rakhma interface in the Holy of Holies, Ruka de Kudsha, literally the breath of God is active in you, then we have access to the actuality, like the 20 trillion bit world. which was called the kingdom, which was here and now. At that point, the 5 smooth stones become available, the faculties of being, the higher faculties. And in that space, perception shows up, but perception is corrected and connected to the actuality. And in that space, rather than just getting the mind's perceptual constructs, what you have is revelation, input directly from the actuality, from the interface, now becomes available in your 9-bit mind. It's been called enlightened perception. And so through the breath, that and that connectedness, when we're hooked up, not just active, but actually hooked up, then divine perception of the mind of Christ, the place that John the Baptist was aiming for, but never actually reached himself, is available to anyone who does their work. And it's that work that group of disciples, when Yeshua said, here's what you need to do, and he gave them an Aramaic. If you read that passage, what it reads is, they said, what do we have to do to please God? And he says, you've got to eat my body and drink my blood. The larger group of the disciples say, too hard a saying, who can hear it? And they leave. Now, obviously, if that was communion, like, what's the big deal about taking communion? Who's going to leave over that? And it's interesting, if you go back, that passage is spoken of twice. And the first time, the word that's used in Aramaic is eat, as in you're sitting down to have a meal. But the second time it's referred to, he takes it to the next level. And to me, it just takes it to another level of understanding. The word used is more like, you've got to gnaw on this. And notice that each of us is gnawing on our work. It's gnawing on the tools. And that's what you need to do. So he says to them, eat my body and drink my blood. And they're saying, you mean I have to go into my multi-generational database and face every rage, every hate, every murder, every fear, every drama, every trauma? And I need to stop being out of integrity by screwing the next door neighbor's wife when he's away? I have to do it. Too hard a saying, I'm out of here. And it records, they walked with him no more.